due to some noise going on in the street outside the front of my flat, I've had to relocate to the Boxing Gossip bedroom to film this video. The keen-eyed amongst you will notice that the tasteful wallpaper theme continues throughout the course of both rooms of my my current flat. So you're getting the wallpaper again. If you were to get a microscope out, perhaps a magnifying glass, you'd probably be able to detect some unevenness in the wallpaper and some little cracks where it should run smoothly. But there you go. Guys, I'm recording this video to talk about Tyson Fury's return. Thanks to everyone who's watching this. If you're new, please subscribe so you can check out my other stuff. Recording this to discuss Tyson Fury's return, and in particular to discuss the interview that went up on IFL TV yesterday, discussing the return of Tyson Fury. Now, I've had a bit of luck, a bit of bad luck with my live broadcasts in the past week, because we do the podcast, it goes live every Wednesday at 8:30. Just as we were going live this week, IFL TV dropped a mega interview with Eddie Hearn, and we got really low numbers comparatively of viewers on the podcast, because obviously the entire boxing community was focusing their entire attention on that interview, and understandably so. Last night did a live show, Ask BG Anything. It's now up on the channel. Once again, clashed horrendously, and I went live at exactly the same moment that the Tyson interview was broadcast, and that was a bit of a disaster, because not only did the majority of people tune into the Tyson Fury interview, but often the majority of the questions that I was getting sent through in the chat were relating to the return of Tyson Fury, because everyone had then checked out his interview and I hadn't yet seen it. But anyway, I've now caught up with it. It's a very good interview. If you haven't seen it already, really recommend you take the time to, after you finish watching this BG broadcast, of course. It's 50 minutes long, 50, and it is on the IFL TV channel. A real sit down with Tyson Fury and Kugan Cassius. It's a very, I think the word is interesting interview. I don't know if I'd necessarily say there were elements of it that were entertaining. There were elements of it that were eye-opening, elements that were very revealing, elements that were quite sad, elements that were very humorous. Fury talks about the trouble in his life, the depression that he has suffered. He talks about his use of drugs. He talks about his return. And regardless of what you think of Tyson Fury, if you like him, if you hate him for things he's said and done in the past, if you hate his style of fighting in the ring, if you think he's a drug cheat, whatever your opinion is, you cannot deny that he is a charismatic individual and one of the best interviews currently available in the sport of boxing, in my humble opinion. Anyway, I was going to focus on two specific elements of that video, which I just wanted to discuss briefly with you guys. Firstly, Fury's return fight. Secondly, some comments he made relating to Joshua Joseph Parker, which we'll come on to in a second. So, I thought Fury actually gave somewhat mixed messages in this video about his return fight. So, earlier on in the video, Tyson Fury says something to the effect of, I either want to fight Tony Bellew upon my return, or I want to fight one of the world champions. He then goes on to give immense credit to Charr for winning his belt, and talks up the possibility of that potential fight. So early on, Fury gives the impression that he's looking to jump straight back into deep water, be it the world title champions or be it Tony Bellew. There's a relatively humorous exchange where he says that he wants to fight Tony Bellew to take away the potential payday from David Haye, and he'd possibly go into a risky fight against Tony Bellew just to spite David Haye, which I must admit had me chuckling, even though I am a David Haye fan. So there was that. Later on in the interview, he says, it's interesting that now all the champions want to fight me. Now I've been out of the ring for 2.5 years. Now I'm fat. They didn't want to fight me when I was in shape. They didn't want to fight me, when I was active. So he says that he's not going to be pushed. He's going to fight at his own pace. He's going to return at his own pace. Don't think he's going to jump straight back into a mega fight immediately. He even says he doesn't want to jump straight back into a fight with David Price, I believe. So I felt that was a slightly mixed message from Tyson Fury. I mean, the only thing I can deduce from it is if he views, regardless of what he says, does he view Manuel Charr and Tony Bellew as so far beneath him in terms of capability at heavyweight, that he can kind of come back against those guys and not even perceive them to be risky fights. He does specifically say Bellew's a risky fight, Charles a good fighter, etc. Does he believe that in his head? Does he believe these guys could hang with Tyson Fury? I don't know, but I did feel there was mixed messages. I do think a lot of boxing fans are going to pick up on the fact that he talks about fighting a Bellew or one of the world champions straight off. But then later on, he does say he's not going to be forced. He's going to take his comeback at his own pace. He's not just going to jump in with someone out of shape, fat, without having comeback. So, yeah, take from that what you will. For what it's worth, if we're talking the Manuel Charr fight, I think that's a fight that could be made. There was some historic beef between the two. Manuel Charr's just won the WBA regular title, but let's put that to one side. Manuel Charr is a guy who didn't make my heavyweight top 30 when I was doing my heavyweight ranking list a few weeks ago. If you haven't seen that out, it's up on the channel. But I did 3 videos listing the top 30 heavyweights in the sport, and at no point did I include Manuel Charr as one of the top 30 heavyweights in the sport. Now, he's subsequently gone out and won the WBA regular title, but you guys know what that WBA regular title means, and let's be honest, this is a dubious honour, isn't it? It's a dubious honour. He's gone and beat Alexander Ustinov. To be fair, it's probably the best win of Charr's career from a resume perspective. He actually probably looked the best Charr's ever looked. He came in light. There was some snap to his work. He was fitter than Ustinov. He looked like he hit harder than Ustinov, and he deserves credit from that win. If I was to rerun my top 30 list, I would now include Manuel Charr off the back of that win. Having said that, and I haven't completed the exercise, but I would certainly have him in the bottom section of that top 30, somewhere between, 25 and 30, you would presume, because his best win over Alexander Ustinov, well, Ustinov didn't make my top 30 list either. At no point did I think, Alexander Ustinov, we've got to include him as a top 30 heavyweight, because his list of wins is far, far, far too weak for me to consider him at this stage. And Manuel Charr has also lost to a cruiserweight in Bradis, a good cruiserweight, but a cruiserweight nevertheless. He's been outpointed by Johan Duhaupas, etc. So we kind of know the level that Manuel Charr is at, for my money. The fact that he's beaten Ustinov, he deserves credit for that. The fact that he's got a belt, fair play to him. But it doesn't change who Manuel Charr is. It doesn't mean that Manuel Charr is suddenly a 20 times better fighter just because he now has that belt. I've made that mistake in the past, actually. I remember when Bermain Stavern won the WBC, or Charles Martin won, was it the IBF? Instantly kind of thinking in my head, wow, this guy's a serious deal. He's a champion now. But we must kind of remember, a fighter is the same fighter. A man is the same man just because they've got a belt. And based on a huge amount of evidence throughout Manuel Charr's career so far, it's questionable whether he's even at that top 30 level. Bizarre sport, I know, when you've got a world champion who, is questionable even if he's a top 20, top 30 level fighter. But I think that's the case in this instance. So, does Fury beat Manuel Charr? Yes, I think he does. Look, Manuel Charr is clearly performing at an all-time peak. He is in vastly superior shape to Tyson Fury right now. But assuming that Tyson Fury comes back in 4 or 5 months, assuming that he trains very, very hard, assuming that he spars extensively and gets match fit, should Tyson Fury beat Manuel Charr? Absolutely he should. Tyson Fury's upside is a hell of a lot higher than Manuel Charr's. Manuel Charr is a long way off elite. For me, he's a long way off world class. It's a very, very bizarre world, this, where you've got a world champion in Manuel Charr who may not even be European level. Could we say Manuel Charr would beat Ajit Kabayel? Could we say Manuel Charr would beat Chisora? I'm not certain. So he's a WBA regular world champion, but he's potentially operating at a level below European level, for my money. And Tyson Fury is above European level. He's above world class. At his best, he's an elite fighter. So even if he comes back as 75% of the man he used to be, then he's gonna have the beating of Bellew Charr. And the fact that Bellew Charr's got that WBA title doesn't change that. You know, it doesn't change it. It doesn't make him more of a man, more of a fighter, etc. So, could that be a realistic fight? Yes. Could Tony Bellew be a realistic fight? You know, probably yes. Fury's probably looking at Bellew, seeing him as an easy mark, seeing him as a guy who's a cruiserweight, seeing him as a guy who got knocked out at light heavyweight, seeing him as a guy who got a gift against David Haye because of David Haye's injury. You know, Fury probably isn't looking at Tony Bellew as a realistic threat in the context of the heavyweight division. So when Fury says he either wants to fight a world champion or wants to fight Bellew, I don't detect that he means he wants to fight Parker. I don't detect it means he wants to fight Joshua. I don't detect that he wants to fight Wilder. I think he actually covers that later on in the video when he says he won't be rushed. He's not happy with these guys calling him out when he's been fat and inactive. I think, realistically, he's having a look at Bellew and Charr, you know, for his comeback fight or his second comeback fight. And then it will only be after those kind of fights he looks at, you know, the other guys you'd consider elite, the Parkers, the Wilders, the AJs, etc. So that's just my take on that one. I know people were asking me about that. He went on to talk about his UCAD hearing. I think there was a limit to how much he could say because he had some non-disclosure or confidentiality agreement. Obviously, it's a live case. But one thing that was troubling from the interview is it's far from a formality, it seems, that this hearing has completely gone away. You know, it seemed that there was certainly doubt in Tyson Fury's mind as to whether or not he'd be allowed to return to the ring. You know, the sort of consensus and public opinion seemed to be that Fury was on his way back and that the UCAD or the British Boxing Board of Control or whoever it was would soon put him in a position where he'd be able to fight again. But this interview cast some doubt over that. You know, Fury didn't seem to be counting his chickens on that front, so that's a worrying thought, and one that I'm sure I'm not the only one who picked up on. Fury then talked about Parker, AJ, and I've got to say, Team Parker, Duco, they've actually done a fairly good job of promoting Parker's profile recently. You know, I know that press conference was seen as farcical by some. I know it looked low budget. You know, I know people weren't impressed by it, but it got people talking, and you know, fair play to them for that. And that Parker AJ fight, little rumblings you pick up on in the boxing world tell you that that's the fight that actually looks like happening. Will AJ fight Dillian White out next? Will AJ fight, you know, Deontay Wilder out next? The kind of rumblings and rumours you hear that Parker fight could be a realistic option. You know, Parker said he wants a 35% split. Eddie Hearn said they think Parker deserves more than 25%. They're not a million miles off. You know, there's some meet in the middle territory there, and that fight could be happening. And, you know, fair play to Duco. They have done a decent job of raising Parker's profile. And funnily enough, I received an email from Duco 10:47 UK time last night. So this shows just how on it they are. They got this email out. You know, they got this email out within, I don't know, an hour, 2 or 3 hours of that Tyson Fury email. But they've sent this email out to me, you know, presumably because I've got a YouTube channel and some Kiwis tune in from time to time. Tyson Fury. Joseph Parker is as tough as a brick. Gypsy King again backs Kiwi to beat his fellow countryman in unification bout. They then sent a transcript of the Coog and Cassius interview. They put Eddie Hearn and Joshua see Parker as an easy victim, but that clip showed the little fat Bulgarian chinned him, Bisbas wallop, and sat him down in his corner. Joshua, was a big weightlifter then too, and that was a little fat man punching his head in for him. There are no expectations on young Joseph. He's a man coming for a paycheck, isn't he? So he can't lose. It's a no-lose situation. If he loses to Joshua, he was supposed to lose. But if he wins, he can become legendary. And I'll have to come back and give him a boxing lesson, which I don't want to because he's my mate. Parker can beat Joshua. He can knock him out. Joshua's chin is dodgy. We know this for a fact. We've seen Klitschko drag him off the canvas. This isn't Muhammad Ali. This is a man believing his own hype who's going to come crashing down very, very soon. So, you know, Team Parker keeping their ear to the ground, seeing these rumblings, seeing this interview with Tyson Fury, all over it straight away. You know, I'm sure that email that they've sent to me has gone out to various members of the UK press. various people with broadcast capacities and capabilities far beyond my little channel. So yeah, interesting that Fury was talking that fight up. Fury, reading between the lines, seemed to think there was a realistic chance that that fight was going to come. And you know, I detect that it's not a million miles off. We could be nearing that fight, and Fury seems relatively confident that Parker can spring the upset. Now, in the interest of being balanced, I would point out that I believe Fury might have picked Charles Martin and gambled on Charles Martin to beat Anthony Joshua. So it perhaps isn't conclusive proof that he's now picking Parker and gambling on Joseph Parker to win that fight. Because, you know, he's got some form for picking against Anthony Joshua. And obviously, his kind of interest is, well, Fury's real interest, if we're honest, is number one, creating bad blood with Joshua, so his fight with AJ is bigger. And frankly, if Parker actually did beat Tyson Fury, it would probably be a bit of a disaster for Tyson Fury. You know, Tyson Fury wants the AJ fight to be as big money as possible. And him and AJ both coming into the fight as undefeated fighters, with unblemished records and resumes, it is key to making that fight as big as possible. So, yeah, would Tyson Fury actually want Joshua to lose his O, to lose that huge payday? I'm sceptical. But he's certainly talking up Parker. He's certainly giving Parker a big shout. And if anything, that makes the Parker fight an even greater likelihood of happening. Look, I could do a 2-hour video just talking about the points Tyson Fury raised in his 1-hour video. So I'm not going to do that. I just wanted to pick out a few little bits and pieces to discuss. Huge shout out as ever to IFL TV. Fantastic coverage. Really giving us great insight into these fighters. Love their channel. Obviously, I guess everyone watching my channel will be a fan of what they do already. So, huge shout out to them. Very revealing interview with Tyson Fury. Very intriguing interview with Tyson Fury. Check it out if you haven't done so already. For you guys who've sat through and watched this with me, many thanks for tuning in. As always, please hit the thumbs up button if you like what I'm doing. Get this video a bit more visibility. Hopefully attract some new people to the channel. If you are one of those said new people, or just someone who's been tuning in for a while and hasn't subscribed for whatever reason, please press subscribe. Leave your comments in the section below. Let me know your thoughts on any of the points raised in this video. Yeah, just stay tuned, guys. Thanks very much for watching, and as always, appreciate the interest.